in this video we will see how the ecosystem of Clojure programming language works, and we will talk about what are the different ways you can use it, and let's just get into it, right? So when I first started with Clojure, it was really hard for me to figure out all that stuff, that because there are not that many tutorials. So I hope I give you enough feedback to get you started with Clojure. So to install Clojure, there are two ways to do that. One way I'm gonna use which is Lanigan, and I've been using that for quite a while. And there is also another way. Let's go to clojure.org. Okay, hope my network works. And getting started, learning Clojure. So yes, if you are not on Windows, and you can also look into a CLJ tools, and that is just a CLJ tools. There is learn Clojure books. Tools, depths and CLJ. One way you can do is use this guide, right? And I will add CLJ. I will add that link to description. Okay, so that way you will have CLJ command, and you will be able to run the language. So I haven't done that because I've been using Lanigan, and I will go over how you can install Lanigan on Windows, and how you can use dependencies, file extensions, and things like that, right? But if you like simple things, you can use that depths and CLJ guide. I think it's a CLI, right? Never mind. So let's get into Lanigan. To install on Windows, I would recommend you use Choco package. Okay, Choco. Windows. So it's chocolatey. So you come here, simply you can search Clojure or Lanigan, and you will have a command for that. So just before you do that, you need to install chocolate, right? It should be straightforward. Just copy that in your PowerShell. After you install that, just type in that command. After you've done that, you will have CMD. If you type lan, you will see that the Lanigan package system is installed, right? So as you can see there, and this was really straightforward. And if you don't want to do that, you can simply use lan.bat, download it, try how things, I mean, with the Clojure you kind of have to play out, right? So okay, so this is how you install the Clojure, and we will do one simple hello world, then we get into its ecosystem before we get into like syntax and stuff, right? So let's get to a dreams directory. We're gonna as of now I'm using ConyMU, and it's basically running git patch, so I'm switching to Windows command line, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say len new application, which is short for app, and I will call it demo. Hope there is no demo, right? So yep. Okay, can we remove that demo recursive forcefully? So we did that. Len new application demo. Okay, so the project file has been generated. Let's look into it, and we will say len lenigan simple run the application. As you can see, it's taking to just print out hello world. It's taking some time, right? Let's look into inside the code what we get. We get you should be focused on like 2 or 3 things. One is the project.clj, and this is where you add dependencies, and next thing is your core file, right? And inside the core file you basically have your hello world. This is the code that's running, right? I will get into syntax in a bit, but before we do that, let's see. So if you want to upgrade Clojure to the latest version, you simply update Clojure in here, then run the same command, and it will, in my case I have already downloaded Clojure, and in your case you will have like downloading Clojure logs, and then you will see the hello world. Okay, so I think you have seen how we do hello world inside Clojure. Let's get into like production stuff. Okay, so first thing is that recently there was an announcement by Java, which is like okay, so Java is no longer free and whatsoever. And if you are thinking like how I'm going to use Clojure inside for my application, so there is thing called OpenJDK, and if you are not sure if you can use it or not, Twitter is using OpenJDK in production. I think you can do that too. And yep, so mostly you basically download OpenJDK and try out. With the Lenigan, I'm pretty sure it with Choco, I think when you install Lenigan, it takes care of the OpenJDK itself, and you can use it for production, and that's totally fine. And let's see how we create a production level hello world, right? So first let's see what commands are available. Package so when we are working with Java, right? So Clojure is actually Clojure runs on JVM, and JVM has like yeah, you already know that how JVM runs jar files, right? It's a JIT compiler. It compiles like bytecode from jar file. So we have package up all the projects file into a jar file. So if you want to compile this application for production, I think you will simply do len.jar, and you have this thing created, right? So if you run it, you have to call Java, then I think you have to flag it with jar. Java could not find the class. Let's see how we can run this. Java run jar file. How to run jar file? Actually, I have like done it few times for testing and stuff. I think Lumo. has like some sort of guide to how to run jar. Basically, it's once your jar file is ready, I think the rest of it is just basically following up the JVM documentation, right? So I think it will be nice if we could do that standalone. Okay, let's clear it out, directory, and it should be in target, and we got jar file, demo.jar, java jar file. Could not create a virtual file. The jar could not find the load. Okay, so maybe there is some error, right? Gen class. Okay. Okay, so we should be doing uber jar because we also have to load in dependencies, right? So as you can see, we already ran into errors, right? So the thing is with the Clojure, if you want to use Clojure, you have to have like knowledge of JVM. You can't just be a crazy Clojure developer. Learn OpenShar. So you cannot be like a really good Clojure developer. By good, I mean the guy who is going to run Clojure in production without knowing how JVM works, how much RAM it's gonna use, etc, etc. So this is how you build your production application. Basically, you just deploy that, right? Now we are printing hello world. You will have your server running, and when working with Clojure, you have like a few options to run servers and web frameworks. I will not go into which one you're going to use, and I think we kind of covered JVM hello world, right? Let's see how we can pull in dependencies. I think before we do that, let's see how the development flow will be with Clojure. So since you can see the whole hello world takes like a really long time, so in Clojure, not particularly in Clojure, but on mostly Lisp languages, you basically going to dive in directly into the REPL, and you will see how, right? So land.repl, and if you're just going to fight the language, like it does not work like a scripting language, and right, so it does not work like a scripting language. You have to work with the REPL, because anytime you run JVM, it kind of takes a while to run it, and we are calling Lanigan, then Clojure itself, so it kind of adds up, right? So first I was thinking, like, anytime you learn Clojure, or when I was learning Clojure, the two things I wanted to fix, one was parentheses, and the second was like startup time. I was like, okay, so this language seems great, right? We might want to learn Clojure, like I right, but I should be fixing those two issues first, but turns out they are not issues. And even if Clojure had like super fast compile time like Go, you still be using your REPL, right, for most of the development. But this cost like adds up, because then you have to learn a different environment, like how the REPL works, how I'm going to load everything inside REPL. Okay, so when you are inside the demo or the project file and run this command line.repl, you have your current namespace, which is demo.core, and if we call our main function, you can easily access it from there. So let's learn how the Lisp syntax works. So this is a array, and this is a function call, right? This is how you call a function and add a count, and this is a vector 1, 2 and 3. So we should get 3, right? Let's enter it. Okay, so anytime you see this thing, the curly braces, the first argument is always will be a function, and that's about it. You know the whole language now. I mean, really, you literally know everything about Clojure or Lisp. The first argument is a function, and the rest of the arguments are argument. Okay, let's see how this works. So this is a function. Oh yeah, indeed it is a function. I mean, it's a macro, but we can easily create it, right? So we have def project, and let's call it def c custom project, ce custom project. And how we gonna do that? We're gonna say def macro, and I'm thinking okay, so just in star we got into macros. What a horrible way to introduce a language, right? But I think let's see, Clojure doc. Hello def macro, let's see, let's say def p for project, and this is how you take arguments, right? And we will basically list out all the arguments that are passed inside this this macro. So let's define this macro, and we have fp, and if we basically paste that code right in here, we will see all the arguments that are passed inside this this structure. Wrong number of arguments passed to. Okay, so see how this symbol is there, and that is because we want to catch all the arguments, right? So we will add in this thing, this I don't know what it's called. We will just add in, and we define it, and we say def p, and you kind of get all the everything as output. How we can, let's count, right? So we get 60 items, right? And those items will be 60. I will get into like what is what, right? How def macros work? It basically takes all the argument without evaluating it. So you can pass in, I think, function calls, etc., etc., right? So this is how you extend the language, and you will, when you are learning Clojure, you will understand how things work. This is a symbol, and you will also, I think those things you will understand, but I am just highlighting, right? This is how you represent string, and this is a keyword. So how the keyword works inside Clojure, I think the best feature about Clojure, one is their Clojure keywords, and I would put Clojure maps really top. I think they are really, Clojure map is something that really changed a lot of things, right? So this is keyword. If you evaluate keyword, you will get simple keyword back. So yes, let's clean it up, right? So this is how you define a map. This is the empty map, right? And it takes one value, it takes key and index. If you just pass emp test and no value, it will throw an error, yeah, because it needs some value. Okay, so you can also use keywords, string, character, or any data types as key. And when you want to access the value, you simply use a keyword in front of as a function. Now we talked about the everything that is the first argument, it's a function. Now in this scenario, keyword is considered a function, and that is an argument, and when you run it, you get the value too. And this is basically, so in this scenario, what the package is doing, it will say the name, and it will catch this thing, and after this it will be a version, right? And rest of the arguments will be inside arguments, and you can easily convert them. You can easily convert everything to a map inside Clojure. It's very easy. Let's clean it up. Actually, let's show you how you can do that. We're gonna do apply hash map, and call args or arg, right? Define inside in here, then define it, and if when I press enter, we should get a map back. Okay, we also have to catch it because it's a multiple arguments, it's not one argument. Syntax error. Okay, so I think you got the idea overall, and you can all like play around with it. I'm not here to teach you that. We will get into like more nitty gritty stuff when using Clojure. So yes, one big issue with Clojure is, let's say you want to build a web REST API. This is like where Clojure shines, like building your large backend services, and you don't know what library you want to use. So let's see Clojure web Clojure server, HTTP server. So there is a package called HTTP, and most of the time you're gonna use Rang, and yep, and there is a server. Now what I want to talk about is not like the ecosystem, but when you look at what is HTTP cat on GitHub, you got Java, right? So you have these like old Java methods, and that can scare you off if you're not a Java developer. And I think the best thing you can do is ignore that part and just grind through the language. And I think this is like one of the best language you can learn right now is Clojure. And the Clojure community stick to its roots. They don't try to sell it. Their main motto is like keeping things simple and easy, which I kind of like, right? So you kind of have to deal with that. If you're a Java developer, you are just super lucky, dude. Okay, so we looked into like how you create a hello world, and let's get into like how you would write a simple function. Okay, so most of the time, actually you can actually switch your namespaces. Let's create a new file. New file, test.clj. Test, right? I'm not sure if we need to call gen class, and we're gonna say def, and this is how you define a function. And what will, okay, so we're going to read that project. No, actually just read the license file, that is much better. Or read.emd, because it has extension. So what we're gonna do, read me file, or we can, no, just it will basically return readme file. And how you read a file, let's see how you read Clojure file inside Clojure. So okay, so now we are like literally clueless. The best thing we can do is go to Google, but if you jump into Clojure docs, like you can literally, there are a lot of functions, and go to quick reference, read file, or just search file. Okay, so file seek, load file, this is related to the REPL. Okay, so is there anything that we can deal with? Okay, file seek, slurp. Okay, so there is no word. Okay, so basically you have like two functions to read or write the file. Slurp, and you pass it in a string as a file name as a string, right? And we have readme slurp, and do we get that? Let's see. Okay, so we do get the entire file. Let's count it. So we count the string, right? Okay, so we get like around 500 characters. Now what if you want to like do some low level file IO? Well, guess what, you have to use Java's API, right? And I think there will be a package most of the time when you are going to use something really common inside Clojure, but most of the time you basically gonna call the Java API underneath. Okay, so let's use the same function, right? Same function. Okay, slurp, and let's go to core. Now how you import the package, we're gonna use require as keyword, and then you pass in vector, and we're gonna use demo.test as test. And so now you see like we have this issue where to test this function out, you either going to use it inside main, right? Main, you will call it and print, and just call the function without argument. This is how you call the function without argument, right? Println. And before we go further, let's try one more thing. So most of the time what you will see, comment that you basically define a comment for your REPL, and this is like very common. And this thing, it's not like it's not required. I'm just doing it for better formatting. So when you going to import or use the packages inside REPL, you basically are gonna use require. Now in this case, since when we started REPL, we never had this test thing, test package, and I'm pretty sure it will throw on some kind of error, right? Let's require it. So it kind of does, or maybe we can say load file, but I think it would be nice to just restart land.repl. Hopefully we don't have any errors inside of it. So we don't have that, right? So if we just see if we have access to our test function, we will have access to our test function right in here, right there. Okay. I think let's try to run our main function. Okay. Syntax error while compiling. Okay, so there is no test function. Okay, so test why there is syntax error. So as you can see, like the error message inside Clojure, they are like really crazy. But basically you have to get used to it. So okay, this seems like has something to do with namespace. Okay, let's try to load file, and that will be demo.test. src, this is going to be the file specified. Okay, source demo. Still it's unable to find the file. Okay, so we are able to use it, right? Read me. Okay, so what now? Can we switch into read me? Okay, so we have access to this function, and if we count it. Okay, so the main issue still remains pending, which is we should be able to call, let's define a function defn test import, right? We're gonna test if whether the imported thing is working or not, which is return file. And let's skip that empty string. Now exit it out. Let's restart the REPL, and we should have this package imported. Okay, so let's run this file. Okay, so it's kind of working, right? So as you can see, we got the string. So this is how you import the package inside Clojure, right? And you can also have directories, util, and if you, anytime you get stuck, just go to GitHub and look at any, I mean, just see like this, there is a package, and just see how they are doing, right? And as you can see, they are using deps.clj, deps and Clojure. I think like I will get more deep into like deps, and mostly last year, my last year was spent mostly on learning like how I'm going to use that language, like web development. So I had this random projects. So I have these like few projects. I would not just simple ideas, right? So I wanted to see how things literally works inside Clojure, how it's like to build a website or like REST API. I will probably not use it to build an like your typical website. Yeah, but mostly I think it's like really good choice for REST APIs. Yeah, this is like my attempts to like build a small project. Okay, let's I think I have posted more videos on that, but I never really posted how you get started with the language. So have I am missing something? No, I think the most of the stuff is done, and you can always look up the examples inside Clojure doc, and I think let's cover like few basics inside Clojure. And okay, so let's see if I have any project that I can. Okay, so I was working on a simple compiler, right? And I will probably not work on that because it's gonna like literally take a lot of time. And source okay, so I have this project and let's I want to show you like how I am testing it out, like comments. So yes, so as of now I haven't touched it in a while, and there are literally no types. So I want to know like how the entire things works. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let's cd land.repl, right? And hope there are no errors, right? So there is no error, and I have this like simple comment file, and let's okay, so we have this imports now. Okay, so when you're working with the language, you basically have like few things, which is AST token. Okay, let's make sure that file is decent. Okay, so it's gonna blow up if we do that. Hope I comment clj. Okay, so I'm gonna import pretty print inside, right? And let's read code, and now we got the code for the file, and let's see if we can tokenize it. Okay, so we got tokens. Oh, interesting. So as I'm like making this tutorial, and I literally have all the tokens laid out in front of me, and you can like see the package get tokenized, the main get tokenized, the main def or whatever, right? Okay, this is cool. Now what? I think we should be like, let's see how the AST gonna work, right? So I think I have changed, like I have made changes in AST. Fine. Yep, a lot of changes. I think hopefully hope it works right. I think it will work fine. And let's see what we get inside AST. So we got all these tokens, and okay, so we got our AST abstract syntax nodes, right? So okay, let's see where we were. Let's close this file, right? We were inside comments, and we were literally building a AST for a language, right? Okay, so package, let's go in there and open up main.pip. Okay, so the package is main, right? That is fine. We got operation, which is def, method name main, argument nothing, method name print, argument hello world. So literally you got AST within like within like you got to your previous state when you were, let's say, from 1 week ago or 2 week ago you were working on this project. You can have multiple comments, like, and you can just like evaluate those commands, and you are kind of good to go now. I think this is like where the REPL driven development shines. I think there is no better way to show it, although there will be better ways too, but this is how you want to do it. And I think this also like generates Go code. I think if I delete that, it will generate that. Let's get rid of it, right? And okay, so let's see. No, it does not. I think I have this thing called, yep. So we had that. I think I will just add one more comment to generate the code for to generate generate the code file, right? So I will have like gen code, and then the command that generates the code itself. I think it's super fun if you think about it. Like you're just developing your application and next day you don't want to lose the state, you will just throw it out. I think it's super fun. Yeah, but I think Clojure is not, or any dynamic language is not really a good choice to work on languages. Exit it out. Okay, so this, you saw like how the comments can be like really awesome. And let's open the demo file. Okay, now I think I will get over like few basics. One would be like, let's pull out HTTP Clojure HTTP. So let's see how we're going to pull out the libraries from the internet, literally. And you have this thing called Clojars to search for jar files. And let's now one thing is inside Clojure, it leverages most of the Java ecosystem. So the packages, Clojure packages are like hosted on Maven, and I think that is totally Java based. I mean, it's a package manager for Java. or JVM, I don't know, but it's something. I'm not that familiar with its ecosystem, right? So we have this library. Let's exit out and land.repl. So I have it already in. I have that library in cache. You will see probably a notification where you see it's download. The package is simply downloading, right? And let's see how it kind of works. Okay, this command is for REPL, as you have seen, right? And this is how you use it inside a package. What we're gonna do, we're going to go into our test package, and we also want to like test inside REPL. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna simply place a command right there, and client.head. Okay, so this is how clients it should work. Okay, let's run this command. And one thing I noticed with Clojure, anytime I install a package, it never breaks. Okay, so we get the status, which is 404. We basically should be requesting https google.com. Okay, so you get head, and it's a map. Clojure preprint. So this is how you pre-print it, right? So it's a map. Now as you are looking at it, I can say that you literally get no idea how you're going to access it or how you're going to play with it. Let's play with the this header, right? So now I'm gonna use def, and we will assign a name which is header. Okay, so now anytime I'm gonna call header, we will get that. Now one thing you can do is like, okay, so this is how you get header. Now define that header in here, and we can get rid of this. Now what you have is like your history where you like created all these changes, and that way it's super like fun way to play around with the ideas. Header. Now let's see how many keys, like what kind of keys are available. Okay, length, body, status. Okay, also what we're gonna do is access body status, right? So this is how you get status. Okay, so we should not be sending in keys. Okay, so you get the value of 200, right? Okay. What else you can do with that? Okay, so I would like to, okay, before we do that, let's define def p clojure clojure to preprint print. Define it, and let's pre-print that. So what we're gonna do, we basically want the nested maps, and we will want it in an array. So let's see how we're gonna do that. So we got our header, and let's create a function defn, which takes in that function does not really make sense, but for the sake of this video, we'll just do it and we will finish it. I think I will create one more video where I get into really basics of Clojure, like how everything works and what are the like basic data structures, and this is like the overview of the ecosystem. But yep, I think performance wise you should not be worried about it. Like if you are using a dynamically typed language, and Clojure performs really well in that regard. And anytime you worry about performance, you can just pull in like small piece of Java to boost it up. If you're really worried about it, but most of the cases you basically don't care, or unless, I don't know. Okay, so this is a map. So how we iterate our map, we basically going to use map, and this is a shorthand for creating an anonymous function, and you will see like how can it breaks. That is just not a syntax sugar. I think it's a more like a syntax sugar. It's a dispatch character, and I will not use it for this example. Fn first argument, which is 1, and the second, I think xy, it will be nice name. First will be okay, so first will be key and the second will be value, and you can say print ln key and value. So this is how we define map. We are printing the key of this map, and as you can see, like we were recording at recording in late night. This is the neat way to like comment your expression. And by the way, it's morning now. I think dispatch character dispatched something else. Let's try in len.repl. Okay, so as you can see, the one thing also with the Clojure is like their Clojure's error messages, they are not readable at all, and things have been like lot better from before, and you can actually read them now. I mean, they're like still it's not like you would expect from a language, right? Is not in this context, which is complaining that this variable is undefined, and we can simply move it up here. And let's exit and get len.repl. Okay, since we've done that, let's reevaluate everything from last night. And we are just there where we left off, right? And we were about to do that print the keys from header. Okay, so wrong number of argument passed to this function. Okay, println header, well, why that is okay, because it will be a vector, right? And we can do that. Yes, this is. So what is going on behind the scene? We basically, when we like map over a map, Clojure treat it as a sequence. Like if you say test 1 and call seek, you get this value. And when you map over a list, one, 2, 3, and try to print it, you will get everything right? All the values, they are just a value inside the list. And what we want was, if we wanted to see if the first value is map, just get it and return that, right? So there are two ways to do that. I mean, there will be multiple ways, but let's see how we can do that. We got header, we got function. Let's do if, okay, before we do that, right, we can use we can define it in here. We can say def n get maps, and then we can pass in, say, second, which it will get the second value. That is obvious. If the second value is map, right, hash map, to check whether it's hash map, go to Clojure doc, I don't know why it's slow. Maybe I will switch my network. Let's see, hash map and remap. So we're gonna see if the second value is map, right? And if the second, let's just say when the second value is map, we want to return it. Return second well, or we can use let, right? Actually, let's try first run that code, then I will get into how we define it. Get, and you can say get map, okay. So as you can see, we get nil because in Clojure every function returns something. So when it does not return something, it returns null. I think that is kind of common with languages like dynamic language, probably, right? So now from there on we can call a filter, or you can use filter, right? Okay, so this is like get this value, then you will probably do a filter, and you will be like nil. If you call nil, you will probably get all the nils. Let's pass this thing in, right? As you can see, right now how you are just okay, so you get nil. Now what we don't want is, we don't want to get nil, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a compose new function, and I'm gonna say probably we don't want null, we simply want something that is not null, right? So as you can see, now you have all the maps, right? When working with Clojure, you can get really like you can have like one more function that is doing something on data, and to deal with that, Clojure has like threading macros. So how you define a threading macro? It's just a macro that takes in data. We looked at how macros work in first like the first introduction was like me working on macros. So what it's gonna do, it's gonna take thing, and let's pipe. Think of it as a pipe operator, and we're gonna use I don't know what those things called, right? So we're gonna define a macro, and let's look at the doc threading macro expert. The form inserts X as the last item in the first form. So header will what it will do, let's first call it, right? Okay, so as you can see, we get the same result. Now what it will do, it's a macro. So if you want to see how what's macro doing, and you simply call this thing, right, macro expand, and as you can see, the code that it's generating is like the exact code we wrote there, like in our previous iteration. So it's just nesting everything, as you can see. All those things you will get familiar with once you use Clojure heavily, and I don't expect don't expect things to play out well in just first iteration if you haven't worked on Lisp before. And so there is that. Now this function can be written in a better way, which is like filter, and you simply pass in the header. We don't need that function, we don't need that map, and we're gonna say okay, filter out all the maps, right? So filter is a function which takes a function and a sequence of input. Map header, filter maps header. Let's look at the header. Okay, probably because it returns first value as a vector, right? So I think one more thing you should okay, never mind. So it will be like this is a dispatch character. This is how you define anonymous functions, and this is used to access first argument, right? If the first argument first argument and second value is mapped, then we kind of filter it out. Okay, so yep. Filter, maybe if we say when the second value is map, return second. Okay, so this is kind of, yeah, I mean, like you can say when the second value is map, but then you will simply call values. But I mean, just play around with the language, you will get the ideas, right? Values when vals. Filter map, which is second. No, you get the expected result. In one more video we will get over, like go over how we can like how the latter works, how we can define variable, and how like data structures work. And I think this should be it, since it's not kind of like not organized. What else? Yes, the JVM. I think the JVM eats a lot of RAM, and when I first ran into it, I was like, okay, so each time I'm making a request, it's allocating more, and it kind of stopped at like 500 MB, and I was like, okay, do we have like memory leak inside my program? because I have like worked with mostly Go, Rust, and C languages, and when I was working with C, I had a memory bug, and the RAM memory usage was growing, and yep. So I was not sure whether I was doing something right. So, and I kind of asked, and the community said, "Okay, bro, that's totally fine. This is how JVM works." And you can always look into the functions that are there, or use GitHub to search for code, and how things work. Like, ask for the community to help. This is like this is not user friendly language at all. I mean, there are, yes, probably after a Clojure doc, like the only reason I was able to crack this language was the Clojure doc, right? If there was no Clojure, it would have been like really, really hard. So thanks to the creator of Clojure doc and the people who contribute to it. Overall, I think it's definitely, in my opinion, I think if you like get familiar with it, it will be like really life changing for you. Yeah, it's really good. Lisps are like different now. I feel like I have become a lisper, but I have a long way to go. So I was reading here, we simply can call cat, and we could say data. You get data. Now this is not HTML, this is a complete Ethan file. So everything inside Clojure is just literally converted into like the Eden content. Okay, so there is a library called Clojure. Okay, let's not get into that, right? So I mean, overall you got the idea like how things work inside Clojure. So you basically, what you're gonna basically do most of the time, you will define functions in packages, and you can gonna import those functions from a root package, right? So I made a video about how you can get started with Ring, and there are a lot of options inside Clojure when it comes to web development, and yeah, I think if you are really interested, this guide should be should get you started with Clojure. And what else should I cover? I think we covered most of it, although you can always look in here, and there is option to just look at the source code. It will get you to the source code, and this is how it's defined. Yeah, and you can definitely use Clojure in production if you're like worried about it, and the performance will be way better than in dynamic language. Yeah, so, and yes, that's about it. We will get into like how the language semantics in next video. I will probably follow Clojure by example guide. I think it's a good guide to get you started with that. Yeah, I mean, there's no easy way to learn a language. You just have to grind it out. So yeah, as you can see, everything is like the first the first symbol inside a list, inside a expression block, is only thing you need inside Clojure to understand what's it's gonna do, right? So the let is a macro which takes an vector, and the next expression is the next expression will be getting called, right? So this is how Clojure works, or more like how Lisps work. And I hope you enjoy working in Clojure. Right, that's about it. See you next time.